Stop disturbing us, and leave this house. My son's wife yelled. The words don't echo. They land heavy, sharp, final. The kind of words that don't need to be repeated because they burn the first time they're spoken. I stand there in the living room, my hands resting calmly at my sides, my back straight, my breathing slow. The house is quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the ticking clock on the wall. My son stands a few steps behind her, frozen, eyes fixed on the floor. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't defend me. That silence tells me more than shouting ever could. The air shifts the moment they step inside. Not loud, not dramatic. Just heavy, like the room suddenly understands something the people in it don't yet. The door closes behind them with a soft, deliberate sound. That's when my son's wife finally finds her voice again. It comes out sharp, defensive, forced. "What is this?" she demands. "Who are you people, and why are you in my house?" One of the men opens his folder calmly, like he's done this hundreds of times before. He doesn't rush. He doesn't raise his voice. He lets the silence work first. Silence has a way of breaking arrogance faster than shouting ever could. "Ma'am," he says evenly, "we're here regarding this property." Her laugh comes too fast. Too loud. "This is private property. You need to leave now." My son looks at me, panic flickering in his eyes. He opens his mouth like he wants to ask me something, but he doesn't. He's still caught between fear and habit. Between the woman he married and the man who raised him. I finally stand up, slowly, every movement measured. My knees aren't as strong as they used to be, but I stand tall anyway. Not to intimidate. Just to be present. "I told you to listen," I say quietly. She turns on me, her face twisted in anger and disbelief. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You were just told to leave this house." One of the men glances at me, then back at her. "Actually," he says, "that's part of the issue." He lays a few documents on the table, neatly, precisely aligned. The kind of care people take when the details matter. "This property," he continues, "is currently under legal review due to ownership discrepancies." Her confidence cracks just a little. "That's impossible." "It isn't," he replies. "And we've confirmed it." She looks at my son now, desperate for backup. Tell them this is our house." My son swallows hard. I don't know what they're talking about." That's the moment the shouting begins. Her voice rises, filling the room, bouncing off the wall she thought she owned. She demands explanations, accuses everyone of mistakes, claims harassment, threatens lawyers. Every sentence ends louder than the last, like volume alone can rewrite reality. I don't interrupt. I watch. I've learned that when people feel power slipping away, they reveal exactly who they are. And she reveals everything. The entitlement, the cruelty, the certainty that consequences are for other people. Finally, one of the men raises a hand, not aggressively, just enough to pause her. "Ma'am," he says, "you need to understand something very clearly. The registered owner of this property is not you." Her breath catches. "What?" He turns slightly and gestures toward me. "It's him." The room goes silent. Not stunned silence. Not dramatic silence. The kind of silence that feels unreal, like time itself paused to let the truth land properly. She stares at me like she's seen a stranger for the first time. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. That's not possible," she says, shaking her head. "He doesn't work. He doesn't have income. He's just careful," I say calmly. She stops mid-sentence. "For years," I continue, "I chose peace over pride. I stayed quiet. I let you believe whatever made you comfortable. I didn't correct you because I didn't need validation. I look at my son now. He looks small, ashamed. I built this life long before either of you needed it. I say. And I never stopped owning what was mine. One of the men clears his throat. Ma'am, we're here to formally notify you that you are not authorized to remove anyone from this property. Her face turns red, then pale, then red again. You can't do this, she snaps, but her voice is shaking now. You can't just walk in and say, we can, he says. And we are. She spins toward my son, her voice breaking. You knew about this? He shakes his head slowly. No, I didn't. She laughs again, but this time it's thin. Hollow, so you just let him sit here all this time? Watching me? Judging me? I watched, I say, because I wanted to know who you were when you thought no one important was looking. That hits her harder than any accusation. One of the men explains the situation in clear terms. Ownership, documentation, legal standing. Her name isn't where she thought it was. The house was never transferred, never gifted, never surrendered. She sinks onto the couch, her legs giving out beneath her. This can't be happening, she whispers. But it is. And now comes the part she wasn't prepared for. Ma'am, the man says, closing his folder, we're also here because of the way you attempted to remove the legal homeowner from the property. She looks up sharply. I didn't remove him. You tried to, he says. And that matters. Her breathing quickens. Her hands clutch the edge of the couch. Panic finally replaces arrogance completely. I was angry, she says weakly. I didn't mean it. I step closer. Not looming. Not threatening. Just close enough for her to hear me clearly. Words spoken in comfort still count, I say. Especially when they reveal intent. She looks up at me now, and for the first time, I don't see anger. I see fear. And I know this isn't over yet. Because the scream she's about to let out isn't from rage. It's from realization. And that realization is just beginning. She's standing in front of me, chest rising and falling, face flushed with anger. Her finger is pointed toward the door like she's already decided my place in this moment. Not here, not welcome. Not family. I look at her, really look at her, and I feel something settle inside me. Not rage, not hurt, clarity. I smile. The realization doesn't explode. It sinks in slowly, like cold water seeping through fabric. Heavy and impossible to ignore. My son's wife sits on the couch, her back stiff. Hands gripping the cushion as if it's the only solid thing left in her world. Her breathing is shallow now. Each inhale sounds like work. Each exhale carries disbelief. One of the men speaks again, calmly outlining what happens next. His voice is steady, practiced, almost gentle, but every word lands like a weight, not the kind of smile meant to provoke. Not sarcasm. Just a calm, measured smile that surprises even me. The kind that comes from years of learning when to speak and when to let the moment do the talking. I don't raise my voice. I don't argue. I don't remind her of anything I've done for this family. I don't ask my son why he's quiet. I simply reach into my pocket and take out my phone. That's when her expression changes. What are you doing? She snaps, her voice tight, impatient. I don't answer right away. I step closer to the window, letting the light hit my face, and scroll calmly through my contacts. My hands don't shake. My breathing doesn't change. I make one call. She scoffs behind me. Go ahead. Call whoever you want. This is our house. I don't correct her. The call connects. I speak quietly, clearly, using only a few words. No explanations. No emotion. Just facts. I end the call and put the phone back in my pocket. That's it. She laughs, crossing her arms. You think that changes anything? I turn to face her again, still calm, still composed. We'll see, I say softly. She rolls her eyes and turns away, already dismissing me, already certain she's won. My son shifts uncomfortably, but stays silent. The room feels heavier now, Like something unseen has entered and taken a seat among us. I move toward the armchair and sit down slowly. I don't rush. I don't leave. I wait. Minutes pass. She starts pacing, complaining loudly about disrespect, about boundaries, about how tired she is of being disturbed. Each word is sharper than the last, thrown carelessly, like she's confident none of it will ever come back to her. I stare at the wall across from me, my thoughts steady. I think about how many times I swallowed my words in this house. How many meals I ate quietly. How many conversations I chose not to interrupt. I think about the patience it took to reach this moment. The clock ticks. 10 minutes. 15. Her voice grows louder. More irritated. She's winning in her mind, and that victory makes her careless. Then, exactly 30 minutes after I ended that call, everything changes. There's a knock at the door, not a casual knock. Firm, professional, precise. She freezes mid-sentence. My son looks up for the first time, confusion flashing across his face. "Who's that?" he asks. She doesn't answer him. She walks to the door, irritation written all over her posture, and yanks it open without thinking. Two strangers stand outside. Well-dressed, serious, holding folders. The color drains from her face, so fast it's almost frightening. I don't move from my seat. I don't need to. She opens her mouth to speak, but no sound comes out. One of them says her name clearly, confidently. Not as a question, as a statement. Her hands start to tremble. I say calmly from the chair behind her, my voice steady and low. "You should listen." She turns slowly, eyes wide now, fear finally pushing through the arrogance. "What did you do?" she whispers. I meet her gaze, still calm, still smiling faintly. "I made one call," I reply. "And now?" We wait. The men step forward, and that's when she starts to understand that this house, this moment, and this power she thought she had, were never really hers at all. "This isn't an eviction," he explains. "Not yet. This is a formal notice of review and correction. However, given the circumstances, there are conditions." "Conditions?" she repeats, her voice cracking. "Yes," he says. "Until this matter is resolved, certain privileges and assumptions you've been operating under no longer apply." She looks around the room wildly, as if the walls might defend her. "This is insane. I live here. My things are here. My life is here." I nod slowly. "So is mine," I say. "Even when you told me to leave." My son finally speaks, his voice low and unsure. "Dad, why didn't you ever say anything?" I look at him for a long moment. Long enough that he has to look away. "Because you weren't ready to hear it," I answer. "And because I needed to know whether respect in this house was conditional." He swallows hard. The men step aside slightly, giving space. They're not here to intimidate. They're here to witness, to document, to ensure that truth stands on its own. My son's wife suddenly pushes herself up from the couch. "No," she says sharply. "No, this isn't how this goes." Her voice rises again, but it's different now. Not commanding, desperate. "You can't just take everything away because of one argument," she snaps. "People say things when they're angry. People reveal things when they're comfortable," I reply evenly. She turns on me. "You planned this. You waited. You wanted this to happen." I shake my head slowly. "I planned nothing. I waited because patience gives people room to choose who they want to be." Her face twists. "You wanted me to fail." "No," I say quietly. "I wanted you to stop." That stops her. She looks at me like she's finally hearing the words instead of fighting them. But it's too late to rewind time. The moment has passed. The call was made. The door was opened. One of the men gestures toward the hallway. "We'll need access to the study." She stiffens. "Why?" "To verify records." Her shoulders slump as if something inside her finally gives way. She nods weakly and steps aside. As they move down the hallway, I notice how small the house feels now. Not physically, emotionally, like it's shrinking around the truth. My son follows them, unsure what else to do. That leaves her and me alone in the living room. She sinks back down, staring at the floor. "I didn't know," she says quietly. "I really didn't know." "I believe you," I say. But ignorance doesn't undo harm. She presses her palms against her eyes. "I thought you were dependent. I thought you had nowhere else." "I didn't need anywhere else," I say. "I needed respect here." Silence stretches between us. Long, thick, honest. After a moment, she speaks again, softer. "Do you hate me?" I consider the question carefully. "No," I say. "I'm disappointed." And disappointment is harder to fix. That seems to hurt more than anger would have. From the hallway, I hear drawers opening, papers shifting, low professional conversation. The sound of truth being handled carefully. She looks up at me again, tears finally spilling over. "What happens now?" "That depends," I say. "On what you do next." She nods, wiping her face. "I don't want to be this person." "Then stop defending her," I reply. "Let her go." She looks down, trembling. The men return a few minutes later. One of them nods slightly at me. Everything checks out. She flinches at those words. "Ma'am," the other says, "we'll be filing a formal report. For now, you're required to acknowledge that you do not have authority over this residence." She nods numbly. "I understand." And, he adds, "any further attempts to remove the homeowner or interfere with his residence would have consequences." She whispers, "I understand," again. The men gather their folders. Their job is almost done. As they head toward the door, she suddenly breaks. She lets out a sound that doesn't even register as a scream at first. It's raw, high, uncontrolled, the sound of a worldview collapsing. She sinks to her knees, hands gripping the carpet, shaking. "I didn't mean it," she cries. "I didn't mean to treat you like nothing." I don't rush to comfort her. I don't scold her. I let the moment stand exactly as it is. Because growth doesn't happen when pain is rushed away. My son kneels beside her, unsure, overwhelmed. I watch them both, my heart heavy but steady. This isn't victory. This is consequence. And consequences don't end the story. They change it. As the door closes behind the men, the house falls silent again. But this time, it's not the silence of arrogance. It's the silence of truth settling in. And I know the final chapter is still coming. Because what happens next will decide whether this family breaks completely or finally learns what respect really costs. The silence after the door closes is heavier than anything that came before it. Not sharp. Not explosive. Just deep and unavoidable. The kind of silence that forces people to sit with what they've done instead of running from it. My son helps his wife up from the floor. She doesn't resist. She doesn't cling. She just stands there, smaller somehow, like the house finally sees her clearly, and so does she. I remain where I am, my hands resting loosely at my sides. I don't feel triumph. I don't feel satisfaction. What I feel is something quieter and harder to explain. Completion. She looks at me, her eyes red and swollen, her voice barely holding together. "I didn't think you mattered," she says. "That's the truth. I thought you were just there." I nod slowly. "That's how entitlement works," I reply. "It convinces you that people only have value if they serve you." My son finally turns to me fully, his face tight with regret. "Dad," he says, his voice breaking, "I should have stopped her. I should have said something." "Yes," I say calmly. "You should have." He lowers his head. "I was afraid of conflict." And that fear, I tell him, cost you your voice. Those words stay with him. I can see it in his posture, in the way his shoulders tense. He understands now that silence isn't neutrality. It's permission. His wife takes a step toward me. Just one, careful, respectful. I screamed because I was scared, she admits. Not because of the house. Because I realized I wasn't in control anymore. I study her for a moment. I see no arrogance left. Just raw honesty and shame. Control is fragile, I say. Respect isn't. She nods slowly. I don't deserve to tell you to leave. I don't deserve to tell you anything. That's correct, I reply. But this isn't about punishment. She looks up confused. It's about boundaries, I continue. And boundaries don't disappear just because someone finally understands them. She swallows hard. What happens now? I take a deep breath. This is the moment that matters most. Not the call. Not the officials. Not the fear. This remains my house, I say clearly. And as long as you live under this roof, there will be rules. Not shouted. Not enforced with threats. But followed. She nods immediately. Of course. You will not raise your voice at me again, I say. You will not dismiss me. You will not speak as if ownership gives you authority over people. I won't, she says quickly. And, I add, you will speak to my son as an equal. Not as someone beneath you. My son looks up sharply, surprised. She turns to him, guilt flooding her expression. I'm sorry, she whispers. I hold up a hand. Apologies are easy, I say. Change is harder. I'll be watching for that. She accepts that without argument. The rest of the day passes quietly. No shouting. No tension-filled stares. Just space. Necessary space. That evening, I sit alone on the back porch as the sun dips low, painting the sky in soft gold and gray. The house behind me is calm for the first time in a long while. Not because everything is fixed, but because everything is finally honest. My son joins me after a while. He sits beside me, hands clasped, staring out at the yard. I didn't realize how much you carried, he says softly. That's because I didn't ask you to, I reply. He nods, I want to do better. Then do, I say. Not tomorrow. Not after things settle, now. Inside the house, I hear quiet movement. Dishes being washed. Chairs being placed carefully. No commands. No orders. Later that night, his wife approaches me again. She doesn't stand over me. She doesn't speak loudly. She keeps her distance. Thank you, she says, for not destroying us. I look at her steadily. You weren't destroyed, I say. You were corrected. She nods, tears in her eyes again, but this time, they aren't from fear. At my age, I've learned something important. Revenge isn't yelling. Power isn't humiliation. And justice doesn't need cruelty to be effective. Sometimes, all it takes is one calm smile. One quiet call. And the patience to let people face the consequences of their own words. She screamed that day not because I hurt her, but because the truth finally stood up and spoke. And from that moment on, this house was no longer ruled by arrogance. It was ruled by respect.